What's up? I'm Jeff Jones from Zomac School of Music. In this lesson, we're going to work on a chop that I call the Bonham Triplets. It's named after the late, great drummer from Led Zeppelin named John Bonham. He recorded a solo in 1969 that was called Moby Dick, and it's just legendary in drummer status. Everyone enjoys it, everyone knows it, and these triplets got very famous because of that solo. However, little history lesson for you, many jazz drummers were using them several years before John Bonham even recorded that solo. One in particular was Elvin Jones. In 1964, he recorded The Drum Thing on the Crescent album by John Coltrane. So he deserves some credit for these two, along with many other guys. Anyway, let's get to the point. Let's learn how to play them. It's a triplet. So we're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and up. The first two notes of the triplet, you're going to play your hands. And then on the third note of the triplet, you play your bass drum. Now, I recommend that you learn these two ways, starting with your right hand and starting with your left hand. Okay, so the right-handed way would be right, left, bass, and so on. The left-handed, left, right, bass, and so on. Now, you could use them on several different patterns of using the high toms, the snare, the floor tom, and whatever. We're going to start with the basics and move on from there. Very cool. Now that you got the basics down, let's add some crossovers. This was a popular thing for Bonham and many other drummers to do too, and it's personally one of my favorites. So when we do the right-handed crossover, we're going to start out with just these two toms, the high tom, floor tom, and of course the bass drum. So when we use these two toms, right hand on the floor tom, then left hand on the high tom, then bass drum. And then when we do a crossover, the right hand goes over the left hand, right hand on the high tom, left hand on the floor tom, then bass drum. So it'll be floor tom, high tom, bass, crossover, high tom, floor tom, bass. And then whenever we do the left-handed version, it's just the opposite. We're going to have our left hand up here to begin with, right hand down here, but we're going to start with the high tom. So left hand on the high tom, right hand on the floor tom, bass drum, then crossover, left hand on the floor tom, right hand on the high tom, bass drum. You could also use the snare drum and other high toms, other floor toms, whatever you want to do. You can improvise and just come up with numerous combinations. Alright, this next chop is using the Bonham Triplets, and I call it the triplet triangle. And it'll make sense here in a second when you see what I'm doing. I prefer to always do this one starting with the left hand. I think it sounds better and it just flows a little easier around the kit. So it's all going to be left, right, bass drum. Now, my right hand is going to stay on the floor tom. Of course, my right foot's on the bass drum pedal. And what I'm going to do is my left hand is going to move from the snare drum to the high tom to the floor tom, just in that little triangle right there. So here's the sticking. It's going to go left, right, bass. It's going to be snare, floor tom, bass, high tom, floor tom, bass, floor tom, bass. And it just keeps going around just like that over and over. So let's give that a try. Well, that's going to wrap up this lesson. Hopefully you found all this information both fun and useful. Feel free to try these in nearly any style of music, including rap, rock, funk, blues, jazz, Latin, and so on. See you next time. God bless.